Hey folks, this is Kalani. The War Within Alpha is finally here, and we were given a sneaky early peek into the first alpha build, which includes a lot of the expansion's big features like Warbands, Delves, hero talents, and dynamic flight. In this video, we'll go through our first impressions of the expansion so far, how each feature is shaping up, and everything we know from this early preview. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. The first big change you're going to get hit with right as you log in is the new character select screen, which is part of the new Warbands feature. This is a super cool update. Not only do you get to see 4 of your characters at once, they're also in this awesome camp backdrop. It's a really nice way to present your characters, and hopefully we can eventually unlock new versions of this background to let us customize this experience further and show off our achievements from in-game. You can move the characters around to change which position they are located in, so if you want certain characters to be to the left or right or in the back or front, you can tinker around with that. And then you can easily swap these characters around from your entire character list. The 4 being shown are your favourites, which is the top right of your character list, and you can drag characters out of or into your favourites to change the ones that are being displayed. Now the character screen for any character not in your favourites is just the bog standard old screen, so only your favourites get to experience the glory of the new Warband login screen. It's not just a new character screen though. Warbands also introduced true account-wide progression to World of Warcraft. Almost everything is going to be account-wide, and you can track it through your Warband in-game. For example, reputation and renown in the new factions in War Within are tied to your Warband instead of to your character, so you're progressing on an account-wide level instead of a character-by-character basis. That means that your alts will immediately have access to renown track rewards that they would have had to have earned separately in Dragonflight, including additional quests and storylines, and it also means if you happen to swap your main partway through a season, you won't lose that progress because it's just not tied to a single character anymore. This might be one of the most anticipated updates coming in the expansion, and it's shaping up quite well so far. To help move items and gold between your characters, we'll also have a new bank tab called the Warband Bank. This is basically a guild bank that all of your characters and alts will have access to by default, so the days of having an alt guild just to hoard all your extra stuff in the guild bank are gone. If you want to keep profession materials like herbs, ores, flasks, potions, or really anything else available to all of your characters at all times, just pop them into the Warband Bank and your alts can withdraw them as needed. From what I can test on the alpha, it also seems like we can craft straight from the Warband Bank as well. So you don't necessarily have to take any items out to get your crafting done. If you keep everything in the Warband Bank, any crafters you have should be able to just craft away with Warband Bank materials. We'll also have access to quite a lot of tabs, though they do come at a gold cost, so we'll have plenty of space to fill up. Now the same actually goes for gold. You can deposit your gold into the Warband Bank and all of your characters will then be able to pull from it if they need a few extra pennies. I would have preferred to have gold essentially just be straight up account wide, but at least we have an easier method of sharing gold now instead of having to mail gold around multiple characters. There's also going to be Warbound gear, which you can trade to all the other characters or pop in your Warband bank for your alts, and it's going to really streamline the gearing process on any of your alts. We don't have anything super specific to look at just yet, but apparently Warbound gear will make gearing alts much faster and easier when compared to your first character, so I am very excited to see how this gets fleshed out as the alpha test progresses. The next big new feature for the War Within that we got to see in the game are the hero talents. The system unlocks when you hit level 71, at which point you'll be able to choose between your spec's 2 hero talent sets. Selecting a set will unlock the first talent or node, and then as you level up, you're going to earn a hero talent point per level, so when you hit level 80, you'll have access to every single node in these talent trees. So you don't have to pick and choose between the actual talents themselves. At max level, you will have access to all of it. The only choices you need to make are the choice nodes themselves in each tree. So as we level up in the War Within, we're going to unlock more and more power in these hero talents, and at max level you'll be choosing between which playstyle or ability set you enjoy more. I imagine as the expansion unfolds, more systems and features like seasonal tier sets will also start to interact with hero talents as well, making them an integral part of how your character plays. Now you can freely swap between the 2 hero talent options you have, just like other talents and talent builds, so as long as you are out of combat and not in some something like a Mythic Plus Keystone, you should be able to swap things around and play whichever set you want in that moment. Now, not every hero talent tree is available in this first alpha build. Some are broken and buggy, while others are not even implemented, so we still have quite a ways to go before we see everything on offer, but the ones which do work are a lot of fun to tinker with, and they give you some great new options that change up how you play or what you focus on the most during your rotation. They also seem to offer an insane amount of power to your character, so they are going to be very important. Another huge change in the War Within is dynamic flight and how it's implemented in the game. It's not just a handful of dragon riding mounts that can use dynamic flight like it was throughout Dragonflight. The vast majority of mounts will have dynamic flight enabled in the War Within, and you can see which mounts have it enabled in your mount journal. This essentially lets you dragon ride with almost any mount you want. This does include non-drake or dragon shaped mounts too, so it doesn't really matter what the mount looks like. You can use dynamic flight on horses that don't even have wings, so there aren't too many limits here, allowing you to use your favourite mounts yet again. You're not forced into using dynamic flight exclusively though. There is a new toggle option in your mount journal right at the top that lets you switch flight style. The button says you can swap between skyriding and steady flight, so I'm not sure which terminology we'll be using at this point, but it lets you swap between dragon riding, dynamic flight, or skyriding, whatever that's going to be called going forward, and then the old style of flying. There aren't really any limits to this by the looks of things either. It is a cast time, so you have to dismount to use it, but you can swap back and forth as you see fit. Now, it is worth noting that we will be limited to just dynamic flight at the start of the expansion for the new War Within zones specifically. It looks like we'll need to complete another Pathfinder achievement to be able to use steady flight in War Within zones, but from what I can remember, you should be able to unlock static or steady flight for the War Within pretty quickly after you hit max level. Now, there's a small change to the dragon riding talent menu. All of the talents seem to be the same for now, but the two new buttons on the right side let you swap between allowing passengers and not, and then picking between whirling surge or lightning rush. So you can use whichever ability you prefer, and you don't have to return to a dragon riding trainer to turn passengers on or off, which is a great change. There don't seem to be any new dragon riding talents to unlock yet at this point, but there are a few dragon riding glyphs scattered around the alpha zones, so maybe we'll see some new things later on down the line. For this first alpha build, we only have access to the first zone, the Isle of Dorn. This is the only above ground zone in the expansion, and it's pretty big. It mostly consists of open plains with rock formations strewn around. There is a giant blue mountain, which looks to be tied to storm powers. Other mountains skirt the edge of the zone. There are some wooded areas, fungal infested areas, mining pits and quarries, areas of industry like the meadery. There's also a snowy area with really cool waterfalls, and it's a really surprisingly varied zone, and it's been a lot of fun to explore. It's also going to be really cool moving from zone to zone. The tunnel-style zone connections that we saw in Zaralek Cavern seem to have been carried forward into the War Within, which makes sense seeing as we're going pretty deep underground. This is the path we can take to move from the Isle of Dorn down into the Ringing Deeps, which is the second zone. We can't actually explore that zone just yet, so we do get kicked out at the end, but just the pathway down into the next zone is amazing and super fun to fly through. Now, our big hub for the expansion is also in this first zone. It's the city of Dornagal. This is a huge, wide open city with amazing earthen architecture, and I love how it's so easy to dragon ride around because it really is so open. You'll find all the usual amenities, including a bank, profession trainers, and a large crafting area, important vendors for all the new systems and reward structures, including renown and delves. There will also be a trading post in this new hub, so you won't have to go back to Orgrimmar or Stormwind to check out what's new in the trading post every month, and then there's a lot of purely decorative buildings and areas as well, so it feels like a proper city instead of just a bunch of vendors crammed together. The council room is particularly impressive. It's where the leaders of the different earthen factions come together to govern, and we'll come back here quite a few times for important story quest points. Throughout the War Within zones, you're also going to run into delves. These are like mini dungeons or scenarios, but one interesting change that makes delves unique is that you don't have a loading screen. You just pick your delve settings and walk straight in. Delves are not currently marked on the world map, only the mini-map, so you may have to keep your eyes peeled as we're exploring. We're not too sure quite how delves are going to rotate or when which delves will be active. That's still a work in progress, but the ones we had to preview were really fun. Delves were surprisingly large. It's not just just poking your head into a single room kind of adventure. You need to work through various tunnels and large open spaces to complete objectives, save allies, and grab your loot. There are special mechanics you need to pay attention to, like having to avoid the webs on the floor, otherwise you spawn a bunch of extra monsters, or needing to stay within a candle's light while travelling through dark, kobold-infested caverns. You'll come up against monsters, traps, puzzles, and bosses, so each delve can be quite different. There are also going to be multiple difficulty settings for you to choose from called tiers. On the alpha there are 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the standard experience. The menu is going to show you what quests or objectives are available inside the delve, how difficult the tier will be, and what dangers await you, and then it also shows you the rewards. Delves currently reward experience and some loot at the end. If you increase the tier, monsters are going to have more health and damage, and you will face additional traps and challenges, but the rewards will be better. Most notably for the alpha, the item level of the box of spoils goes up, so as you work your way through the tiers, delves should reward better and better loot. Tier 3 becomes available at max level by the looks of things, and then we should see further tiers unlock as the system progresses. There's also a new currency that you'll be earning called Resonance Crystals, which can be used to buy all manner of goodies from a vendor, though with this being the first alpha test, it's very hard to get a gauge of just how valuable this currency will end up being and everything we can purchase with it, but you will be earning yet another currency. Whenever you head into a delve, you'll be accompanied by Bran Bronzebeard, who will help you progress and serve a few different functions. You can have Bran help out more with damage dealing or with healing to better keep you alive. As you complete delves, Bran is going to earn experience to level up, and you can unlock a utility trinket and combat trinket slot, and you can see which abilities Bran can use and learn for each specialization and at which level they unlock. So he gets more powerful and more useful the more you do delves. You're also going to be able to find respawn points partway through delves, giving you a quick respawn location if worse comes to worse, but you can also change up Bran's loadout here, so if you're struggling with something, you can change things up and test out different builds and abilities to help you progress further. Now what is very interesting is that at the end of the delves you come upon a treasure room with a few chests inside. The first chest is always available to you, but the other two, the rare and epic chests, will require a key. We only have one source for these keys in the alpha build. There's a renowned vendor who sells a rare key at renown level 10, so they will probably be rewarded from a wide variety of content, and if I remember correctly, the best delve rewards will be tied to weekly activities, so the rare and epic keys will most likely be time gated and come from a variety of places, so we will probably have limits on how many of those we can get per week to then restrict how many rare or epic chests we can open. We know that the highest gear rewards available from delves will be on par with Mythic plus 5 Keystone loot, so you should be able to get some really good items from delves, but only a few times per week. There are also a whole bunch of cosmetic rewards tied to delves, including transmog and a unique new mount that will be fully customizable, so you can pick and choose which parts you want to use to change how the mount looks, which is a really cool idea. We were also able to see 2 of the new dungeons coming in the War Within. We're going to have 8 new dungeons total at launch, so we already have 2 out of 8 in the very first alpha build. Both of these are in the Isle of Dorn, the first zone we'll have access to. Curiously, the Rookery dungeon is actually part of the main story questline in the first zone, so everyone will have to complete the dungeon to progress through the campaign. This would maybe be a problem for some folks in the past, but thanks to the follower dungeon system, which we now know will be brought forward into the War Within, if you don't want to do your dungeons with randoms in the LFG queue, you can just do it with NPC followers instead and basically solo the dungeon to progress through at your own pace. The Rookery takes us through where the Storm Griffins are raised, but as per usual, some less than friendly folks are trying to take over the place. This one had a lot of void-themed enemies and bosses that look amazing, and it went way deeper than I thought it would go. You end up jumping down several big drops to end up in a cavern with some very nasty looking void creatures. And then the other dungeon we got to see was the Cinder Brew Meadery. This dungeon was super fun with bees and honey as the main features and themes, and it was a lot more light-hearted than the Rookery, and of course we're working through a meadery, so there's plenty of booze to be thrown around as well. The boss fights were really fun and varied with engaging mechanics that kept you on your toes, and the layout was actually super cool. You do end up backtracking a little bit in this dungeon, but the way the dungeon passes you through makes it feel very natural and you barely even notice. I am very excited to see what the other dungeons look like because these first 2 were a blast. Now, even though it wasn't a major testing point for this first build, professions also seem to be decently fleshed out. They're also very similar to professions in Dragonflight. The window looks pretty much the same, we'll be using the same quality and profession gear systems, crafting orders are still going to be a thing, and we have new profession knowledge trees to progress through. So if you enjoyed the Dragonflight profession overhaul, you should have fun with the War Within professions as well. We'll go through professions in more detail as the alpha test progresses. One very notable change is that we should see NPC work orders as part of the work order system, which should make it easier to complete quests or achievements tied to completing or fulfilling work orders, which is a great change in my opinion. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight is a new user interface option that might just save a few folks throughout this expansion. There is a new arachnophobia option that will turn any spider-like creatures into crabs of a similar size. So if you saw that we're heading down into spider-infested, webbed layers full of Nerubians and thought, heck no, I don't do spiders, well, now you can just turn them all into crabs and not have to worry about those creepy spiders making you jump out of your skin. So that is a nice little quality of life change for those of you out there who really cannot stand spiders. But that's our first look at the War Within Alpha. As always, all of this is subject to change while we're still in the testing period, but as the weeks go by, more and more content will be added for testing, so stay tuned for all of the Alpha update videos. What do you think of the War Within from what you've seen so far? Which new feature are you most excited about? Account-wide progress with the Warbands, the new hero talent trees giving us a lot more power, or maybe doing some solo content with the Delves? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description of the Patreon and click the join button just below this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.